Hey, this is Sir Charles Carey. I want you to join me on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. for the TRU-MU podcast, True Music. That's where we talk about all things.
I'm a musician, singer-songwriter, producer, engineer.
All things creative.
Me and my co-host, Carl T. Smith, the smooth one, will be glad to hear you, glad to talk to you, answer your questions, and talk all things music. The TRU-MU podcast, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. Be part of the energy.
I can see that thing that makes men stop, stand still, all in denial, suffer loss of will.
All right, back once again for the TRU-MU podcast. Carl T. Smith and Sir Charles Carey at your service. Mr. C, what's going on?
You know, regular stuff, man, and yourself?
Oh, man, I'm grateful. Can't kill it. It won't die. You know.
There you go.
I saw it good. Oh, man, look, you've been doing some things, man. You've been on the road traveling, doing some gigs here and there and here. What's up?
Doing some playing for some other people, setting up some stuff for the upcoming months, and recording and mixing and just trying to get the stuff for the people. Do the stuff for the peoples, man. Do the stuff for the people.
Sounds like you need 2 more hands, 3, 4, 5 more hands.
That's not enough.
I heard about this
more than that.
Look, I heard about this new group called Carl and the Peoples. I saw it was calling.
Yeah. Oh man.
Look, we got a pretty good show today. I mean, I think they're all good, honestly. Some a little more interesting or intriguing than others, but today's a good one because we've got an engineer, someone one of the many things you do, he does the same thing on a high level. So I'm not going to belabor the moment. I'm going to introduce to some and present to all of the others our guest for the day. I call him Woo, Alistair Ye. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm good. How's everyone doing?
All right. Fantastic, man. How was your day today?
Pretty good, relaxing.
Good. Look, man, we have an assortment of different guests, usually people that are creatives, musically, authors, et cetera, all in that vein. And today I just wanted to, show you how it goes. We start from the beginning and then we build up to today. So, what was the young version of you like? What was the young Woo like?
What was a young version of me like? What you mean, before I engineered or something?
Yeah, man, when you was a kid, when you was like 8, 9 years old and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, when I was 8 and 9, I grew up in the States. I grew up in Maryland.
Okay.
And Gaithersburg, Maryland's where I grew up. I was a quiet kid, still fairly quiet today. But,
okay.
Soft-spoken little kid, pretty cooperative, not really rambunctious. I don't like to stir up too much trouble.
You mean you wasn't raised in hell?
No, absolutely not. I had a great childhood, no real complaints. I had everything I needed growing up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, that's what most parents want. A good cooperative child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I know what you do, but when did you, I guess, develop an affection or an affinity for the creative arts? When did that start? Like, how old were you when that started?
Well, I think I've always had an affinity towards music. Like my brain, especially drums, rhythms, but also chords and melodies. I would hum a lot when I was a kid at the dinner table. Like I would just hum nonsensical melodies, and it would just be like improvisational humming. I would just come up with just sounds that I thought good sounded together, like notes, just like random notes. And that kind of went through into high school. I was in the band,
Oh, really?
Band. Yeah, I played the clarinet.
Me too.
This only lasted about 3 years. Yeah, I wasn't too into it. I don't really like woodwinds, actually. It's the reeds and it's the spit. It was a whole bunch of stuff. I wasn't really into playing that instrument, but it taught me how to read music and be around people who knew music. And I was always even since when I started going to Chinese school is like, we had this organization called Washington Metropolitan Area Chinese Schools. So it was like an association of like, I think probably at least 10 different Chinese schools. And what they would do is they would rent out every Sunday of a certain high school in our city. Like there was, and I would go to a school called, I think it was Churchill High School. We would have this high school for every Sunday. We would have Chinese school. So it was like a bunch of Taiwanese folk getting together, teaching their kids the language, Mandarin Chinese, in like a structured environment every Sunday.
Nice.
So like instead of going to church, like we would go and learn our native tongue and what have you. And there I met friends, and a lot of them introduced me to electronic music, like the drum and bass music, electronic drum and bass music. Drum and bass is like a high tempo electronic dance type of music. It's popular like in Europe and the UK back in then.
Yeah.
I was really into it because it was just like the diversity of the sounds. It could be really heavy, or it could be really melodic. It could be really soft and atmospheric, or it could be really abrasive and aggressive. And it led me down this rabbit hole of like, I started listening to house music, trance music, and then that's how I really got it. I was listening to music voluntarily, and I was looking into finding more music like that. So I got exposed to all different sorts of music in the UK and Germany, in the States.
Really?
Yeah, and like that's what gave me a passion for music, because it was so creative. Now, a lot of it was just purely electronic. It wasn't live instruments or anything like that. But you know, that's how I learned music theory, actually, kind of. Chord progressions, how songs become structured, like they have the intro, then they have the build up, then they have the climax and the build up, and like, you know, how it like has a story. That's where I learned about that. So, you know, I went throughout my school years always being into music, but I never thought of pursuing it seriously.
Okay.
You know,
do you still play any instruments now though? Like, can you play anything now?
I play the guitar, yeah, mostly electric guitar. I started learning that pretty late though, when I was like 29 years old.
Okay.
I'm 36 now, so I've been playing for at least 60 years. So I didn't like, the reason I started playing guitar was because as an engineer, I was watching all of my artists that I was working with go into the booth, and they were expressing themselves, and they were like, I saw how like it felt so good for them. You know, have you ever looked at somebody on stage like Steve Vai or something, like a really high level virtuoso guitar player?
Yeah, that guy right there, man. The guy named the Smooth one, man. He was a big inspiration, man, because of all the things he was doing when I was younger. I wanted to grow up and be like him.
Right, exactly. I would look at these guys on stage, and they'd be like, damn, these guys are killing it, and they're feeling so good. And I could tell they're feeling amazing while they're doing it, because they had such a level of mastery where whatever they were playing was just like hitting every single note. The crowd was reacting. And I was watching my artists do that same thing in the booth. And I was like, damn.
But look, what about the fact that when you watch them perform, it's like sometimes they're out of body. They're like in a whole different mindset, depending on.
That's a big part of it. They get into this zone where they're not thinking. They're not thinking. I know they're not thinking. They're just doing.
The music was flowing through them, right?
Yes, the music was flowing through them. And it's like they're not even really voluntarily doing it. They are, but in a sense they're not, because they're allowing, you know, the vibration to pass through them, and that's what makes it so beautiful, and that's what's making them feel so good. So I wanted to feel that, and I knew, I was like, if I had learned an instrument and I got really, really good at it, I would feel so proud of myself, and I would have the satisfaction of like having that enjoyment of just improvisational playing. So that's why I started playing guitar, and then I started teaching myself how to do it. I would go on YouTube, I would hire a teacher. I went to a community college course, signed up for classical guitar level 1, and I just took that class, just the only class on campus, just to do that.
Look, let me ask the young master. Hey, Carl, you ever had that kind of experience when you were playing at, you know, at any point, like you were just like so into it that, you know, the music was actually taking you on its journey?
Just Saturday.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. You know, every time I hit the stage, it's you know, you get that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the feeling that I was trying to capture and experience. Because in the past, I would always be using my mouse and keyboard to like plug in notes on my piano roll, like do MIDI program drums with my mouse and keyboard. Sometimes I'll just use a drum bank, but it wasn't real live, soulful expression. It would be, I would have a thought in my head. It's like, okay, how am I going to translate my thought into this? How am I going to write down this thought? Instead of just doing it. So that's how I got into that. It's because of me watching my clients. And,
I'll tell you, one of the things,
yeah,
I can relate to you because I remember one of the when I really, from an electronic point and producing my really first, it's not my first project, but I'll say on my second executive produced project, I really got into a particular song. And I remember every day I would come home and I would work on this song. And it's like I was just so into it that I started playing like certain guitar riffs on the keyboard. And I remember letting some people hear the song and they were like, hey, who's playing guitar? And that let me know that I was playing well enough that, one, they didn't know it was me. And two, I was emulating a guitar, electric guitar so well on keyboard that I was making the mark. And I was like, oh, snap. So I'm really there where I wanted to be with this particular project. And it's such a rewarding feeling when you're in that space. So well, Carl, what do you have?
So you do a lot of electronic music, you say?
Yeah, mostly what I produce is, you could call it electronic, but it's electronic in the sense that I use a software to generate most of the sounds, and I also do a lot of sampling,
So would it be like techno or EDM or that kind of stuff?
The music that I love to make, it's like EDM, it's like house music, but the most of the music that I've made in my career has been hip hop instrumentals, like trap instrumentals, R&B instrumentals, boom bap, stuff like that. Most of what I have created is that, but a lot of it does have an electronic leaning to it. Like I'll have electronic synthesizers going off in my hip hop trap beats and stuff, so it's not pure EDM music, but I do love making house music. In my heyday, when I really started learning, I was making a lot of dubstep. This is when dubstep started getting big, around 2010. When dubstep
so what is dubstep actually? I mean, I've heard the phrase, but I don't know if I really understood what dubstep is.
So dubstep is like, I believe it originated in the UK. Like a lot of these electronic genres, they have roots in the UK, and they just kind of like cross-pollinate with us and everywhere else. But it's like a 140 beats per minute half-time drum time signature with a lot of bass. It has characteristics of like wobbly bass, but it's generally a 140 BPM electronic genre. So it's not a 4 to the floor. So you know how there's different drum types?
Yeah.
When you say 4 to the floor time signature, they usually mean 4/4 kick on every downbeat, like dun, dun,
right.
Dun, dun. So that's the 4. That encompasses house, trance, techno, reggaeton, a lot of genres. But the other one is called broken beat, which is hip hop, drum and bass, dubstep, which is like, it's not necessarily got to have a kick on every downbeat. It's like a kick on every second and a snare on every third,
Wow. Okay.
So dubstep, it's a broken beat, 140 BPM electronic genre. It's not typically for dancing. It's more for like listening, but it was really big for like from 2008 all the way to like 2012, 2013. Dubstep was like the king of music festivals. Like that's when Skrillex was making a lot of music. That's probably one of the bigger names, Rusko, Bass Nectar. These are like EDM guys. If you were in college around 2010, like you were going to these music festivals, these were like the headlining names. And
is it lo-fi?
Lo-fi?
No, is the dubstep have a lo-fi influence with it or no? Not really.
No, not really. It does dubstep has a lot of subgenres. So there's more of the heavy stuff and there's more of the sweeter stuff,
Right.
But I think it has roots in like actual dub music, like a Jamaican, Caribbean. It has that type of I think it has something like that drum style. But then dubstep is like a developed electronic version of that where a lot of EDM people started getting into it. So it started getting really into electronic style. It wasn't originally like that though.
Okay.
It also has a lot of like UK garage has a lot of similar roots, I think. UK garage, UK dubstep,
Okay.
they all kind of meld together. And I think drill music evolved from UK garage, I believe. I haven't looked into this a lot because when I started engineering in 2015, I went to this like cave where I just stopped learning about genres and I just started completely working with my clients. So like, I don't know for sure if this is accurate, but I think drill music, modern drill music, the stuff that they play here, it came from drill music from the UK, and that evolved from UK garage, two-step garage, which has a lot of roots with dubstep. So over the course of these like 2 decades, it just started to keep developing.
Any relationship from drill to trap?
Drill, the thing is, I don't know why we call drill music, because back when I first heard about drill music, it was like Chief Keef. It was like a really aggressive, dark style of trap music that came from like, you know, the Chief Keef guys in Chicago or whatever.
Okay.
That's what you would call drill music. But at some point, that word started getting connected with the UK drill scene because UK drill was also drill music, but it didn't sound like trap music. It sounded like two-step garage music.
Gotcha.
But because you had the same name, then something happened in New York where like then the genres merged, and I don't know because like I said, when I started engineering in 2015, I went to the cave, and I don't know the evolution of any of this stuff. So this is all like me assuming these things, but I do know about the old drill music and how it came about and how dubstep came about. That's my best guess.
You know, I was thinking when you first started telling us about, you know, going to Chinese school, what were some of the topics or the subjects that they taught other than, you know, language?
The main thing was the language, but also they were teaching a lot of like elective stuff that were surrounding Chinese culture.
Okay.
Like we did a lot of different types of, we could choose from different types of martial arts. There was wushu, which is kind of like kung fu, but it's more of like a performance kung fu where you're like almost like dancing. It's about forms and like moving your body. It's less about combat. There's also Chinese calligraphy, which is the painting of the fruits. And then also Chinese painting, which is like, you know, you've seen those paintings of the cherry blossoms, right? Like they're very watercolor like. There was that, and there was quite a few things, man. It was mainly the cultural enrichment, just learning about what you do on Chinese New Year, why it's about the types of food. It's just to teach Chinese Americans the culture and make sure they don't forget the language. Just basically the purpose of it. So like,
don't forget who you are, or where your ancestors come from, basically.
Yeah, because you know we go to public school here and it's all English, so we don't have a lot of opportunities to speak Chinese other than at home. And sometimes the families aren't even really speaking predominantly Chinese; they're speaking English. Like my Chinese is not great. Like I can understand it.
Did you hold on to any of the language? I was going to ask.
Yeah, so I can't really read anymore. I can a little bit, but it's almost like an elementary school level of reading comprehension. But I can understand it just fine. You can speak to me in Chinese; I can understand it fluently. But me actually talking back in Chinese is a bit of a challenge. I speak more slowly. I have kind of an American accent, and like I can't express nuances like I can with English. It's just not, you know.
That's how
I'm more of an American, you know.
That's how I am with Spanish. Like I know what I want to say, and I have to listen like, real closely if I can pick anything out. Can you identify with any of Wu's Chinese influence, Carl? Any the things that you speak about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, sometimes just speaking English with some people, man, I can't recognize. I don't recognize it.
No, I understand.
Sure.
What else you got for him, Carl?
So you engineer, or do you engineer live events or studio recording?
No, I don't engineer live events. Although I do have the educational background to be able to do it, I don't have the professional experience doing it. Like I can do it technically in my head, but doing it live is a different story. Like I need practice. I've always been in the studio environment ever since I began this engineering journey. I've always been an in-studio engineer from the beginning, which is really kind of unprecedented. Like a lot of engineers, when they're starting out, when they make the decision that they want to engineer and they want to work in the music studio, like they have to really prove themselves a lot. Like they have to become an intern, get lucky enough to get an internship. Then you have to intern for a year. Then you might get lucky enough to be promoted to a runner, which is like the guy who runs coffee back and forth, running cables, helping people set up their mics inside the booth, right? Not actually engineering. Then you do that for a while. Then you might get it promoted to an assistant engineer, which is you sit in on a session with a real engineer and you help them patch outboard gear, right? You help them communicate with the artist, but you're not actually behind the boards. And then after you prove yourself for like 4 years, then you might become an engineer, you know, a recording engineer at that. You're not even mixing yet. You're just recording clients, because recording is kind of like a lower skill barrier of entry. Mixing requires ear training and a lot of years of listening, right? Wow. But recording engineer, okay, you record for a few years, then you become an actual mixing engineer. Then you might become a mastering engineer if you have enough clients, right? So I, straight off the bat, became a recording and mixing engineer because, well, I went to a school in 2015 to learn this stuff. It's called Omega Studios.
I'm going to ask you about Omega. Yeah.
I went to Omega Studios in 2014, actually. It took about 10 months to get me through the program. And there's a guy there. His name is Robert. His full-time job is to find work for the graduates. Anyone who graduates from Omega, his job is to find work for him. So he helped me find the job that I'm at right now, my main studio, which is Midnight Recording Studio. And, you know, he told me to go in there, interview. I sent my resume in. I talked to the owner on the first day. He hired me right then. He just hired me right then. At that point, there were already 2 other engineers there. That studio, I think the studio had a shaky time when I came on because the previous engineer, who was their lead engineer who handled all the clients, he had left. Like he went out of state. He got married and he went out of state to take care of his family or whatnot and get married. But so the owner had to, I guess, scramble to find an engineer because, you know, they had a lot of clients at that point. So we needed somebody to, you know, pick up where he left off. So he was hiring people here and there, but they weren't really as good as him. And then they found me and they're like, okay, this is it. We got the guy. So slowly I just took over all the clients. All the other engineers eventually started getting let go because all of the clients wanted to record with me. They didn't want to record. You know how barbers are, where you go to a barber and you know what they do to your hair and you like it? You don't want to start over with another barber and explain to them how your hair, you want it. You just go there because it's kind of like that. Like I started getting a lot of client loyalty. So the other engineers weren't finding work anymore. So they just like let them go. And I took over the entire client base of that studio. And I've been doing it for like 10 years now, pretty much 10 years. We've had other engineers here and there to assist me. And like, there was a point where we were so busy, they had to book 2 months in advance. So I couldn't handle all the clients. So we had to hire like another guy to handle the new clients. So I was handling all of my regulars, and this guy would be getting all the inflow of the new guys that were coming in. But then we started running into the problem where it's like, okay, the engineers that we're hiring, they're still not super experienced, you know? So they weren't necessarily doing a great job of retaining the clients. And then I would end up taking on to be like, hey, if this guy didn't do a good job, the managers would be like, hey, why don't you try Wu? You know, he's good. Like everybody wants to record with him, just record with them and see how you like it. And then all the new clients just came bound back to me anyway, you know, because they just wanted to record with me. I would mix them real good. I'm quick. I'm responsive. I care about their music. So I feel like they know I'm a little bit invested in them, right?
Right.
So they like that vibe that I give off, so they just keep going. So all of the clients fell on me eventually at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've done, I think, either 2 or 3 projects with you, and I like all the stuff I've done with you. I mean, I've never left the studio unsatisfied with.
Yeah, that's my goal, man. You know, my philosophy has always been, when it comes to like my professional work, my philosophy has always been, if I do a good job, everybody wins. Okay.
Yeah.
If I do a good job, I win because I get a recurring client and I get more business and I get better at my craft because I get more hours in the studio behind the boards, right?
Yeah.
You win because you get a great song and you're proud of it and you'd love to share it with the world, right? And then it's your catalog. And the studio owner wins too because he's getting more people coming in, right? I'm rotating the tables like in a restaurant, you know? So like, if I do a good job, everybody wins. That's the way I look at it. And that's how I got to the point where I am now. And, you know, it's worked out. I know I always hear stories about artists who go to their studios, other studios, and the engineers, they just don't care. They're either they don't the engineers either don't care or they're not competent enough. You know, so it's hard to find a guy who has everything. It's okay. You can have a people person. You can communicate with the client really well. You have a nice working relationship. You also have the technical skills to work the Pro Tools. You have the ear training, so you can mix real good.
Right.
You got to have a little bit of everything to be a really, successful doing this in this business. Like it takes a while to get there.
Yeah, I know you had a lot of high profile clients. Can you share some of the high profile clients that you've worked with over the years in general?
Well, okay, so when it comes to mixing credits, like I've had my hands on artists like Kurt Cobain's. There's Kevin Gates. I got a track with Kevin Gates. I got a track with Kurt Cobain's. I got a track with Rico Nasty. I got a track with Chris Brown. There's I've worked with Big Flock. He's not a huge artist, but he's really well known in our area. There's I've done sessions with all of the Glizzy gang, Sorry Glizzy, those guys. Like when I first started, I was doing a lot of sessions with them. Who else? Egyptian, African fella. He's still a pretty big artist right now. There's a lot, but most of my clients are local guys, hobbyists. That's the brunt of my engineering hours, is working with just ordinary folk,
Yeah, I know I'm old school, but I'm gonna attempt. I don't know if you guys can hear that. I'll attempt to play a track that you worked on of mine and see if it can be heard. I don't know if it's gonna be audible on that, but here we go. Nothing beats a failure but a try. So let me.
First thing I thought when I saw your eyes, I wanna need more in your mind. What's in the dark comes to light. When it breaks down, oh, that's right. It's been a while and we're still here. Spending all this time, it's sincere. Nobody does things quite like you. Or am I blind? Playing the fool. Play the fool.
You guys able to hear that at all?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay. See, I'm on this side, so I know I can hear it, but I don't know how it comes through. Okay. Yeah, but that's one of a few songs, and it's a nice groove.
I remember that one.
Yeah,
I was like, this sounds familiar.
man. Like I said, I'm totally satisfied with the work.
Yeah, that's a nice track.
And of course, I've always got more in the arsenal. Over time, I'm definitely going to get back in there so I can finish some other tracks. But man, I was really surprised one day when I saw your ads on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I know that guy.
Yeah. I've been getting that a lot lately.
Yeah, that's great. I shared some of your stuff
Oh, good.
on a couple of my pages just because, again, that's the good thing about word of mouth and a satisfied customer. You're willing to share,
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, it's all right. What you got, Carl?
So I know you mentioned Pro Tools. What other software do you use?
I also use FL Studio. FL Studio used to be called Free Loops. It's always had a reputation back then for being a really rudimentary and basic, newbie software, but it's definitely not. It's up there with all of them now. I produce all of my original music pretty much in FL Studio. It's a great program. Particularly good for hip hop style music, broken beat music, any music really. But it's just got a really good workflow. It's very much like painting a picture because I've worked with Logic, I've worked with Ableton. Ableton's great too. Logic, I always felt like it was like it stifles my creativity because so many of the functions are hidden behind right-click menus. Like you have to click it, right-click it, make a new track. It was very technical. It would get in the way of what I'm trying to do. With FL Studio, it's almost like you paint a bunch of pattern blocks and you stack a bunch of Legos together and see what works. It's always been really conducive to my creative juices. But I've used FL Studio is my main one. I've used Ableton. I've used Reason. I've used
Cubase.
I've never used Cubase. Never used Cubase. I've used the MPC software also. There's
Okay.
Logic, of course. And then there's Pro Tools. Pro Tools is the main software that I use for recording and mixing and mastering. It's still like the fastest, most responsive DAW for recording and mixing. But for production, it's really kind of lousy, in my opinion. It's not built for that. It's built for tracking instruments, mixing vocals and whatnot.
Which one is that you're talking about?
What, Pro Tools?
Oh, okay.
Pro Tools, it just happens to be the industry standard. All of the serious studios are using Pro Tools, so it just
Yeah, you know, though, man, I've seen some good work on Logic, though, man.
Oh, I'm sure, of course, yeah.
You know.
I work with people who work on Logic, and they sound just as good. You know?
Yeah. I like a nice, of course, not overly loud, but I like a nice loud mix. It's nothing like that energy a loud mix provides, you know. But so. When was the last project that you put out? I'm assuming that you have some music of your own that you put out on the market.
Yeah. The earliest one that I put out was back in 2013. It was a project called Ascent, and it was all electronic hip hop, kind of electronic trap. I would say it sounds like that. It's like 808 snares, hi hats, that type of stuff, but it's also a lot of really melodic, rich chords and melodies and progressions and stuff. I kind of try to meld them together because I always like the euphoric kind of dopamine hitting satisfaction of really good soulful melodic music, you know, with really deep, rich chord progressions that takes you on a musical journey, right? From beginning, middle, and end. It makes you feel feelings, right? But I also really loved the aggressive testosterone bass of trap music. You know, it just makes you want to like, you know, it's like punch a wall. You feel like, you know what I mean? So I was like, I wanted to always try to merge those two together. It's like you want that euphoric feeling with the aggression, and then you put them together in a really tasteful way.
See, that's like when I heard this has been years ago now, but the first time I heard Hidden Beach Records, their whole run when they mix hip hop with classical music or hip hop with jazz, I was just blown away. Like the first 3 albums were just like, to me, just phenomenal. You know, when you hear a classical piano or flute with a hip hop beat, I'm like, what kind of fusion is this? But I love the concept and the finished product, you know, and it kind of reminds me of like talking about starting out in school. I remember I played clarinet and my friends, they played trumpet, but I always wanted to play the second clarinet because it was easy, very melodic. However, I would sometimes take my mouthpiece and put it over top of a trumpet to see what kind of sound that would produce, a clarinet mouthpiece over a trumpet. And it was just weird. I've always thought in fusion, innovative type ways. And yeah, man, you know, just doing something different, doing something odd, you know, I really subscribe to that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the evolution, I think, of music over the centuries is it's so cool to put the pieces together and watch and how to see the genres meld together. I've always felt like great music mixes really well with great music. Have you ever, you know, you've seen a DJ who's doing mashups and stuff on like live, and it's like you wouldn't think that these two songs go together, but they do. As long as you get the key right, and then you can do the beat matching. It sounds amazing.
Or the tempo. What about you, Carl? Have you ever done something like which may be considered out of the norm, but you made it work?
5 minutes ago, got the door up over here. 5 minutes ago, it's like that ain't gonna fit. Oh, yes, you are. You know, and get it in there. Yeah, all the time.
Okay. And how do you approach that, Carl? Like, you know, is it like tempo, key change? I mean, or what?
Well, it depends. You know, it all depends. Sometimes if you break it up, you know, sometimes it's, you know, instead of the whole like 4 beats or the whole 4 bars, or say the whole 4 beats, 2 beats repeated, you know, maybe slowed down, we'll do it, or sped up or something like that.
Or the second and third note, you're like, oh, let me just take that note, double it up. Oh, okay, now it works differently. I have a different vision. Yeah.
you know, or sometimes you just change the tempo of something and play the whole phrase, and right underneath or on top of something, it works.
Look, sometimes I'm scared that if I take a chance in trying something, I'm going to mess up the whole song. So I'll save as and then work all my experimenting out. And if it works, that becomes the main track. Yeah. So your 2013 project, is that the last project you put out?
No, the last project I put out was actually in August, last month. Oh no,
Nice.
September actually, beginning of September.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was the first project I put out since 2020, I think. So it's been a while. I had one in 2013, I had one in 2017, one in 2020, and now it's 2025. And I have way more music that I haven't released like that, but
Right.
that was my real earnest attempt at putting out a project. I was so proud of it, man. It was like music that I've always dreamed of making back in the day, you know, with the tools that I have now. Back then, you know, you would have to hire 20-piece orchestra to get these strings, orchestras and stuff. Like you used to have to hire a guitarist who had been playing for 15 years to get them in the studio, everybody in at the same time. Now you have all of these tools that can like emulate violins and like strings.
So when you record though, do you record in Pro Tools as well?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
At the studio, we record in Pro Tools. You can record in any real software. It's just that Pro Tools is the one that I'm the most familiar with because I have the most hours in it. So I'm very quick.
And where can we hear your work? Is it under the same name, or how do we hear your work?
I do have 2 projects on all the streaming platforms right now. The first one's called Ascent. The second one is called The Navigator. These are all on Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music. They're also on YouTube. They're also on Amazon Music. All the, when you go on the DSP upload system, it'll do it all for you. My latest one, I haven't officially released it. I released the full tape as one track, as one continuous 45-minute track on SoundCloud. Now, I don't promote my SoundCloud, so it has very little traffic, but I haven't officially released it. I just put it up there just in case I wanted to share with people, so I could share the link to them.
But under what name would we look for? Like, how do we find your stuff?
On Spotify, you would just look up WU, W-U. But I share that name with like probably at least 5 or 6 other artists. So when you look up WU, you're gonna find some random guys that aren't me.
Some imposters. I got you.
Not really imposters. Maybe they got the name before me. Like.
So now, what's your goal as an engineer now? With Midnight and just in general for yourself, because I know you have access of doing different things, which I'm not going to go into the full conversation because I know we've talked offline about some things. Now I don't want to reveal more than you want revealed. So what's your goal as an engineer now?
Well, as an engineer now, what I'm working on is I'm trying to accumulate a lot of clients for work at home, for remote mixing. So I'm starting to develop a system where I can stream my screen to any of my clients, and I can mix the music in my Pro Tools at home, and I can beam it to their phone. And as long as they have some headphones, they can listen to exactly what I'm doing.
Nice.
So I don't necessarily.
Are you also using Atmos also?
Adobe Atmos? No. So Adobe Atmos is something that's pretty sophisticated, actually. It's like a surround sound style of mixing. You have to have a really impressive setup to even be able to be capable of providing that service. You need like a good treated room. You need a room big enough so that you can have the 2 front speakers, the subwoofer, the 2 back speakers,
scaling,
and you're mixing over multiple directions and stuff. So it's something that I don't know how to do. But,
so remote mixing, working remotely is one of the current goals that you're working.
That's my main goal. Yes, yeah. Now I can already do it, but I need enough clients to have the positive feedback loop where I'm busy and I'm just booked.
But doesn't the client also have to have a similar system so that if they're within a 500-mile range that it can actually work? Is that not true anymore?
You mean for mixing or for recording? Because for recording, it will require them. Say we're both at home. If they're recording, they would have to have their own booth. It could be a closet or whatever. It can be simple. They would have to have a decent microphone,
Okay.
They would have to have a computer with some kind of recording software installed on it, and then it is possible to do the streaming setup that way. What I'm focusing on right now is I'm trying to target, like you saw my ad on Facebook or Instagram or one of them.
Yeah.
Facebook has like a advertising system that is very good at finding the demographic that is most likely to convert into your funnel, and most likely to need your services. So slowly over time, the Facebook pixel is what they call it. The pixel will learn over time what type of individual, based on their data, is most likely and statistically probable to click on my link and follow through and enter their information and hop on a call with me, so that we can get the work done. So what I'm focused on right now is strictly mixing artists who need engineers, because there's so many artists out there who record at home, or they record on their phone on apps like BandLab. They don't even really have proper microphones. They just record on their phone. And they're not even in the studio. They don't have engineers, but they know what they want. They know what they want to sound like. If you're into music, you know what you want to sound like. You hear the quality that's on the streaming platforms. You hear the quality that's on TV and radio. And you make the music and it comes out like, why don't I sound like that? Now, this is a dilemma that countless creatives run into. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to be a remedy to that. I'm trying to bridge the gap. I collect the stems from them. I explain to them how I want them formatted. They usually know what I'm talking about. They'll give me the dry stems and the instrumental. And then from there, I can work with it. I can just mix it from there. And then I send it back to them for their feedback. And then we keep communicating until we're both happy with the song. And, sometimes we'll stream it. Sometimes we'll do it over the phone. Sometimes we'll do it on FaceTime. A lot of time, we don't even need to talk. I just send it to them and they love it, Like, it's their song. Like, if I'm working with an artist, at the end of the day, it's your song. I want to do it the way that you want it done. I don't want to waste your time. If I'm going in a direction that you don't like, I want to know that early, right? So early on, I'll send them drafts and stuff. Say, okay, I'm on the right path. Do you like what I'm doing? And then we'll just keep working until the song's done.
Well, I look forward to experimenting in that arena with you, because I just find it intriguing how technology has continued to evolve, and there's so many things you can do. And because of the distance, sometimes I'm in a different location and I'm inspired to write, or I may finish something up and I got to think about where I'm currently at and getting back closer to the studio. And if I can do it remotely, that's a fix right there.
You know what I've been envisioning for a long time is, I think in the near future, like, I think studios are kind of like in a tough spot right now because of the progression of technology and the current socioeconomic, like, people don't really generally have a lot of disposable income right now because of the crazy inflation that they did. They printed so much money after COVID that, like, we doubled our money supply in like 2 years, something crazy like that. And now we're really facing the consequences of this. There's like unemployment problems now. There's problems with demand. There's plenty of supply. There's not enough demand. Business is getting more scarce, and a lot of studios have been hurting. A lot of studios have straight up shut down. And like, even our studio, we made the pivot into doing the bar lounge thing. I think a big part of the reason of that was because to like protect ourselves against this possibility, because the industry's changing, economic conditions change. Sometimes you need to be adaptable in order to stay in business, right?
Right.
There's a lot of the reason why I decided to start doing this stuff remote, because I was depending a lot on the studio for sourcing my clients, and it wasn't enough for me. Like, I had time. I was like, I got time to just sit around. It's like, nah, I really got to do something. I got a family. I need to do what I'm supposed to do on this earth.
Right.
So that's why I started doing my own business thing. That's how you saw my ad. I shot that ad like 4 months ago, and that has been running 24/7 ever since then. I've met a lot of people through there. I've got some good business. Still building it up.
Yeah, for sure. What you got, Carl?
So you want to do remote? Are you using any? Because they have quite a bit of software. Well, no. Software. They got quite a bit of software, for remote.
Yeah.
Recording, remote, mixing or remote connecting and stuff. Have you used any of those?
Well, I've used Zoom and I've used FaceTime. StreamYard is another one too. But the issue with these services is that they don't really have high fidelity, 44.1 kbps or whatever, like studio quality 24-bit streaming. And there's also lag. there's lag time, there's latency, right?
Latency,
So if you're recording somebody live and they're having a lag in their ear, it's not really good for what you're trying to do. I do know there is a service. You know what? Let me try to look it up right now. But there is actually a company that runs a service, and it's like a web browser based thing where you can invite musicians into a chat room, so to speak, but it's like a stream room.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's built for music stuff. So it's built for live bands to be able to play together, because it's like if your ping is like sub 20, like below 20, ping is like the latency between, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From your computer to the server and then back. So if it's like below 30 or 20, like you can totally play with somebody and they'll be able to stay on tack. As long as there's like a centralized engineer that's orchestrating all of it together, like it's totally possible. But there is a program that I plan on using. It's built specifically for music, but it's like StreamYard, but it allows you to do things like somebody can take a mouse and draw on the screen, the public screen, to say, hey, can you move this clip this way? Like, can you move my ad lib from here to here? And you can actually show them how, right? So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming out. I really envision not too far from now, if virtual reality starts to pop off, like it's like taking a while to do, but I think virtual reality is going to be another really big thing. Like you're going to have VR in your glasses. Like everybody will be able to, when the technology gets there, you're just going to be able to beam your session from your glasses, and you are going to be able to enter a 3D room. It's like a lobby where you have avatars in this room. You're all having your little goggles on in wherever the hell you are, but you enter a shared space via the internet and on the cloud, and you enter a shared space where you can interact with one another. Like I can manifest a drum set, a 3D drum set right here, and I could throw it to you. I can just toss it over to you. You can catch it. You got your little drumsticks or whatever. You might have a MIDI controller in front of you, and then you start playing, and I can hear it. And then it's like, oh, hey, I have this melody that I really like. I'm gonna play it on my 3D piano here. Save the MIDI, toss it over to you. You know what I mean?
Kazam is one of those systems. Kazam, and I can't think of the other name. The name just hit me. Kazam is one of those systems you're talking about, where you can work virtually with other artists. Obviously, virtually, remotely. I can't think of the other name though. There's two others that I'm familiar with. I remember seeing on YouTube Stevie Wonder at this kind of like a store or conference, and this girl was singing, but she was singing by herself. But her band, they were dialing in remotely, guitar, keys, and drums, and Stevie was with her, and it was like that joint was fly. The whole concept, you know, it was more than a concept; it was reality actually.
Yeah, think about the audience participation factor too. Like, so you got these really big famous guys who might end up streaming, right? And they have like a few thousand on their screen reading the chat and whatever. And they have, you can give them permission to contribute. And like, who knows what little crazy stuff you can crowdsource different types of music. I think it's going to be really, really cool. But this just goes back to the studio business. Like, I don't know how much longer the traditional brick and mortar studios are going to stick around. It's just like,
and see, the bad thing about the tech, it's a phenomenal idea, excuse me, and very highly interesting and engaging. However, the issue is, will it hurt the live performance market? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think it will.
See, and that's
you know about the ticket sales going on at all of like the Live Nation. If you look at the stats and stuff, they're not really doing so great. They're having trouble. Part of it is their own doing because of the price gouging and all of the fees, but it's also because the younger generation more and more are not really that interested. You know, they're just not too concerned with going to a big show. They're either too expensive or the performance that they're watching isn't impressive enough for them to warrant getting out of their house, right? I know like a lot of the rappers, they're just kind of singing ad-libs over their whole track. They're not making performance mixes. They're just playing their tracks live. They're jumping around on stage, saying a couple words in between words.
Even some of the old heads are doing.
I wouldn't say for that. I really
look. Even some of the old heads are doing things similar to that. Now, I think most of the old R&B artists and maybe jazz artists are actually performing, but I've seen some performances with R&B artists whereas they're doing the same thing. I was kind of surprised, but it's one thing when the crowd really wants to sing your song, and it's another thing when you're prompting them to sing your song. You know.
Yeah, me personally, if I'm going to see somebody live, I want to see some real uncommon skill and talent. Like I want to hear someone who is really good, and I want to be wowed by being in the presence of somebody who is just so skilled. You know, if you're not doing that, like it just doesn't do it for me. Like I might as well just download your album.
What are your thoughts, Carl?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's but unfortunately, when you start talking about the industry, it's more about what the people can do. It's the sing along. It's the easy stuff that really matters. So stuff that we would not go to see is definitely different than the stuff that the average person who wants to go to a concert and want you to prompt them to sing along and want to be part of. The experience is being in the crowd and singing along and joining in and things like that. So it's a difference between a professional going to see something and the general public.
So what are your thoughts? Like, do you like people sing along with you when you're performing, or would you prefer them to just overall appreciate your performance, or do you want them to?
I'm not there for me. I'm there for them. So if they sing along and they get the experience and they enjoy themselves, then it's worth the money. They'll come back and see you. You know, if they sitting there and just kind of trying to appreciate what you're doing for you, they really don't care about you. Just like Mr. Wu said, it's all about them.
No, for sure. Yeah, I know when I was younger, my thoughts were, look at how well I can sing this song by Earth, Wind, and Fire or whomever. Then as I, as I got older, my thoughts changed with, seeing and getting the enjoyment from the audience, because it's one thing, it's great that you can sing and hit the notes and all of that, but are they enjoying it?
Well, so, if you look at the ratio of extreme talent and just outright, for lack of a better word, no talent, most of the major talent, or most of the major artists, or most of the big artists that's out there aren't really great singers or great performers or great players. They have great sing-alongs. They got a great hook, a great catch.
Okay.
With that great hook and that great catch, they're making a lot. Now there's from sitting in record companies and listening to which stuff they listen to and keep. I found that it's not how great you sing. It's especially these days, is how much of a following you got, and the sing-alongs got most of the following.
All right, Rule. That means we got to start working on some sing-alongs for Sir Charles, because
a lot of them are already sing-alongs, man.
Cool. Hey, do you know Matt Shell, Will, from Omega? He used to be
I met Matt Shell. I have his actually, let's check it out, man. Look what I got.
Okay, yeah.
You really know, he gave me this. I got a bunch of them too. I got another one right here.
I got a few of his albums.
Right here. This one, I've never opened this one.
Okay.
Another one from him. I got a few of them actually. It's funny they have them on hand. It's crazy.
I remember one of my first projects I used before I started. Well, I made a transition. I've always done music, but I got away from music and I slowly came back to it. I came back with it through spoken word. I was on the spoken word circuit and I got the crazy idea, hey, why don't I put some music to my spoken word? And he was one of the first people that gave me the okay to use some of his music, him playing guitar and classical stuff. And that was the beginning of creating the monster, because ever since then, I just kept going and then learning how to create my own. And, one thing led to another. But yeah, he's a good friend from many, many years ago.
Oh, cool.
Unfortunately, his mom just passed. So Rest in peace to Matthew Shell's mom, and blessings to the entire Shell family. But he's a good guy, really good guy.
Yeah, I wonder what he's up to these days. This was over 10 years ago.
Music, man. He's still doing music. He's been to the Grammys a few times. I don't know in what capacity, other than being able to go, but he's writing a lot of good music still. He's got some nice stuff, kind of like a nice fusion of jazz, R&B, soul, and pop. I just like his style, you know. But yeah. So let me ask you this: well, who were or are there any influences from the perspective of being an engineer? I mean, I know Bruce Sweeten because he worked with Michael Jackson, but I don't know a lot of engineers or people in the industry by name, because it's probably like, what do you call a underappreciated craft.
Yeah, it's a bit behind the scenes type of thing. You know, we don't get a whole lot of limelight, and typically the engineer doesn't really want that anyway. It's like the personality type that enters that type of profession and isn't someone who's seeking that sort of exposure like an artist wants to, or maybe like a electronic music producer wants to, or something like that. But two names that I know always come to mind would be 40. He is Drake's engineer.
Okay.
I think he's one of the best. Anything that Drake has made, because of the quality that it's 40 did that. I think 40 has a huge part in crafting his sound, not just Drake, but also everybody under his label and all the people that he's worked with. Another one is Young Guru, who was Jay-Z's engineer. He also went to Omega. This was before me.
Really?
A while before me, yeah. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 5-10 years before I even got there. But he's also an Omega graduate. Those are the two engineers that I know offhand that I can say, okay, these guys are good. I'd learn from them. There's also Rick Beato. He's a YouTuber. He's always like telling stuff about engineering and stuff, trying to demystify it for people. And then like I work with all these different types of plugins, like software plugins, when I'm mixing, that are made and designed by famous engineers. I only know them by name. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they look like. There's like Jack Joseph Puig. There's like the people who make the CLA compressors. Like
you had a Chris Lord.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly that. And something Avalon. Chris, I think his name is.
Yeah. Chris Lord.
All their tools, man. I use all their tools, but I don't know really who they are. All I know is that they're top engineers, and they probably have been doing it for 30 plus years. So, yeah.
It's all right. Well, you know, I definitely wish you continued success, and I will be reaching out to you so that we can have a remote session and see how that goes.
Yeah, we should try out Kazam. Jam Kazam is what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into it. I need something like this to facilitate,
And if I have to have it too, you know, I mean that. Yeah. It's just
I think only one person has to have a subscription for it. Then they can share the space.
Okay.
I think, but I'm definitely going to have to drop a subscription on that. You know.
Well, you know, Carl is a singer-songwriting producer himself. He does a lot of his own material and has done it for years and years. So, you know, who knows, man? Maybe we could get multiple people in the room, and then there could be you could do a jam session. You know, I have the tools over here. You got your own live instruments. We can plug it up. We all got audio interfaces, right? Yep.
Got that, and it's cool.
Yep.
Sounds good. Stay ahead of this as it's developing.
Check out a thing called Jack Trip. That's one of them that you can. They're having jam sessions on that thing. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I have it, but the only reason why I don't do anything is because there isn't anybody else that have it or uses it.
Oh, it's definitely going to get more common. I think it's still kind of in its infancy, because first we need to have the internet infrastructure to have a low latency, low ping environment. That's not always available, but since we're in the States, it's not that hard, right? So now that as the high-speed internet continues to propagate itself worldwide, the standard is going to be risen, like the floor for quality is rising up, and it becomes more financially feasible for these corporations to start doing research and development, and these audio companies to start doing research and development into developing these different apps. And then there's going to be competition.
Yeah.
and that's going to foster even more improvement. And the software is going to be, going to be razor sharp at that point. They're going to keep honing it, and it's going to get better and better. It's just going to be the standard, I think.
Well, hopefully, the more competition, the lower the pricing will be.
Yes, exactly. That's how kind of things are supposed to work, right? But it doesn't always work that way with monopolistic habits of the corporate.
The greedy and so forth. Well, man, look, man, any other comments you want to make about, trying to get some clients? Feel free to go for it right here. We'll just let you pitch whatever you like to pitch.
Okay. Well, sure, man. I appreciate the platform. I'm a professional audio engineer of 11 years. I've been recording, mixing, and mastering for 11 years. I've probably mixed over 6,000 tracks, mixed and mastered over 6,000 tracks at this point. What I do is I help artists who either record at home or, you record at studios. I help get your music to the industry standard, radio-ready standard that you expect your music to be. I understand how difficult it is to find an engineer that's capable of delivering you that kind of quality. So that's what I'm here for. My experience and I have my portfolio online. You can listen to it. You can make a better educated decision whether or not you want something for yourself like this. But that's what I do. I help you guys out. It's not always easy. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. You're not always going to find an engineer. You go to a studio in the next city over or across the street. There's no guarantee that guy knows what he's doing, right? But I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm doing. I've got the credentials to back it up, and I got a portfolio to back it up. And if you want to check me out and see if you want to bring your music to that level that you really want it to be, because I know you want it to get to the industry standard quality, I can do it for you. Hit me up. We can work. Hop on a call. I can get to know your music and get to know the feeling of what you're trying to do. And we can get it going.
Sounds good. And I am a satisfied. What's that commercial called back in the 70s? I'm not only a member, but I'm the president.
Yeah, my hair club member.
Well, it's not about hair. It's about the music, guys. Not about the hair, about the melody.
I'm a hair club member too.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So thanks again for showing up. Hold on one second as we close out. We'll be right back, folks. I always say you got to be part of the energy, folks.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. You're sexy, so good to me.